This is a simple debt collection flowchart with the underlying steps including the patient seeking care, providers processing insurance based on status, determining the patient's responsibility, evaluation on the patient's part whether they could afford the bill or not, then the patient acts by paying, disputing, negotiating, or ignoring the bill. And finally the provider begins the collection processes. Providers often collect medical bills in-house before involving third parties. Internal efforts include emails, letters, calls, and suggestion of affordable and reliable payment plans. Part of providers reaching out to patients involves notifying them that if their debt is not settled then the bill could go to collections and affect their credit. Unsuccessful efforts by internal collections results in assigning the account to a third-party agency, placing the account with a collection attorney for litigation, or sells the account to a debt buyer, with the most common being a third-party collection agency. Worth pointing out is the fact that there are 3 types of agencies that collect medical debt. The agencies include early out or internal provider agencies, third-party contingency collection agencies, and non-performing asset (NPA) acquirers. Internal provider agencies are employees in the hospital payroll, mostly part of the billing department, and are contracted to be the first line of debt collection. The individuals operate under the healthcare institution's name, and as such, they might be involved in the billing process before a bill actually becomes a debt. Third-party contingency collection agencies work for themselves, but they do not own the debt and they just provide outsourced services to healthcare facilities. NPA acquirers purchase the medical paper and own the medical debt. Contingency agencies do not own the debt since they're contracted for a specific amount of time to collect as much of the debt as possible. The amount of debt that will be collected back is based on the effectiveness of the collection agency, which is pegged to the commission that they will be paid. The commission-based approach to paying contingency agencies incentivizes their representatives to pressure patients as much as possible, especially considering that their contracts have time limitations on them. The agencies could add fees and interest on medical debt, thereby burdening the patient more. Once the contracts expire, debts are returned to the hospitals who write them off or explore alternative avenues. The high-pressure and quick turnaround agreements between healthcare providers and contingency agencies are characterized by hostility towards patients as there's little incentive to negotiate with patients or forgive the debt. NPA acquirers purchase the debt from the hospital at a discounted rate, thereby allowing the hospital to recoup some money from the debt, even if it is lesser than what the patient could have paid in full. The extra amount that the NPA has when the debt is paid in full covers the risk taken up by purchasing the debt. Thus, the amount of revenue generated by NPA acquirers is limited by the amount of money they could collect from patients. Owning the debt implies that acquirers are more flexible to negotiate with patients since they have time. The lack of time limitations allows the extension of the flexibility to patients, thereby enabling the payments to spread over time, a phenomenon that could make the debt more profitable. Spreading payments over time allows for the establishment of financial relationships with patients outside the medical debt. Hospitals also benefit from selling debt to acquirers since rarely are the patients harassed, ensuring that courtesy is extended to the patient from treatment and throughout the payment process. Contingency agencies and NPA acquirers are both contracted by healthcare providers to collect debt from patients. The organizations use similar strategies in collecting debt, which include letters, calls, and emails. Some representatives are sympathetic with patients, while others are flat-out coercive and aggressive. Patients complain about a lot in the debt collection, including minimal information on their medical records, too many notifications, and harsh representatives who constantly threaten them with legal action. Litigation is largely reserved for accounts with huge amounts of debt since most hospitals don't sue for small amounts, especially considering the costs associated with legal processes. However, other facilities are consistent with their aggression, with some hospitals in Nebraska suing patients over as low as $60 while the median amount which hospitals in New York sue for is $1,900. Hospitals in New York are said to have collected over $442 million as a result of filing liens on people's homes over unpaid medical debt. Some studies suggest that hospitals filed over 39,000 lawsuits against patients, with the whole litigation thing being worsened by the fact that a lot of patients are unaware whether they're being sued, and as such, they end up not showing up in court. Not showing up to court translates into default judgment for the petitioner, and the deck is stacked against the patient. Particularly, patients' wages are garnished, liens are put on patients' properties, and civil arrest warrants are issued. For-profit debt buyers often focus on non-healthcare debt, with medical debt accounting for about 1% of all medical debt bought. Insurance and medical billing disputes significantly complicate healthcare systems beyond actually seeking care and having to figure out the whole in and out of network providers. Disorganized billing and reimbursement significantly harm the consumer, especially by accruing unnecessary debt. Unnecessary debt has negative outcomes for patients since healthcare providers often turn away patients with debt. From the top, once all internal efforts towards settling patients' liabilities have been exhausted, the bill is listed as overdue. Medical debt is the #1 reason why people are contacted by debt collectors, with the relevant problems arising when medical expenses are forwarded to debt collection agencies. Outstanding medical bills are submitted to internal collections or billing departments or an agency that engages in the first round of collecting bad debt. The bill still lists the services provided to the patient, which kinda explains to the patient why they should pay their bill. Healthcare systems have an array of options in the event that a medical bill is unpaid. Some of the most popular options include writing the bill off as bad debt or provision of charity care, involving an external collection agency that collects the debt as fast as possible, selling the debt to an acquirer of non-performing assets, NPAs, at reduced costs, and exploring available legal options such as wage garnishments or property liens. The choice of settling unpaid medical debt is heavily dependent on an organization's tax exemption status. Information about a medical debt is gradually lost throughout the debt collection process since it is transferred across different agencies by the time it gets to the latter stages. The loss of information implies that a patient may receive a bill that does not contain identifiable information on what service the patient received. The bill might not even specify any interest rates or accompanying fees that get it to where it is. The bill being unknown to the patient after third parties have been involved in the collection process is a source of 32% of complaints by patients about their medical bill. Patients are mostly given an estimate of what the services they were provided would cost, with most of them ending up accruing medical debt because of the little time and resources to manage the difference between estimates and actual bills. Third-party collection agencies often use abusive strategies when collecting debt from patients to the point of medical debt accounting for 52% of items on collection reports, and subsequently damaging the credit of 1 in 5 adults.